right, good setting. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's very nice.
I miss
I feel
Moon
comfortable
River.
here.
I do miss Moon River, but we are here at Rahr & Sons in Fort Worth, Texas. One of the only 2 breweries in all of Dallas-Fort Worth. And if you're ever in this area, you should come by. They do a lot of cool things here, and they have a lot of great beers. But I am Paul Leone, and
John Pinkerton.
And once again,
Scooter Hendon.
Scooter Hendon is here, and Scooter has a website promoting Texas beers. What is that?
TexasBrews.org, and it will be an advocacy site for Texas craft beer.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks for joining us again. And you brought several beers with us, and staying with the Texas theme, tell us what you brought.
I have a Saint Arnold Divine Reserve 10, which is, there's a lot to say about this one. Very hotly sought after in the state, especially in the Houston area, but also in our area here as well. A lot of people really wanting this. It's a series that they do. They have all their year-rounds and their seasonals, but they also they come out, they used to do it a couple of times a year. Now it's more like once a year. They said they might get back to doing it a couple of times a year, but they started in 2005 as their Divine Reserve series, which is typically going to be a little bit more experimental, a bigger beer, typically kind of a higher ABV. But this one is an English barley wine, and they sort of, if you followed everything that was going on with this, when I say hotly sought after, I can't really state that enough. In Houston area, at these specs in downtown Houston, they were saying that there were over 100 people waiting in line before the liquor store even opened.
Wow.
To try to get this, and they only made
awesome.
Sweetness.
1,800 cases of it, which is more. I think they said 20% more than they've made in their past series in their last year. But they do a different style every year. This is, like I said, this is an English barley wine. Last year they did an Imperial Pumpkin Stout. In the past they've done Scotch ales, and they've done a couple other barley wines and double IPA. But yeah.
So each year changes.
Every year it's different every year.
And this is going to be a big one.
It's a big one. It is an 11% ABV.
We're missing our
bigger
little,
than Dallas.
our little opener here. You got the opener?
I do. It is in my pocket.
Attaboy, there you go.
So, crack this bad boy open. I can do that.
Yeah, it's a big one. It says 11% ABV.
Yeah, and St. Arnold recommends that you age it for a little while. They say 5 to 10 years if you're extremely patient.
Wow.
6 to 8 months would probably help it settle down a little bit, but
and that's the cool thing about these beers. You buy them, and you know, you don't have to drink them all right away. They can sit in your closet or somewhere in a nice temperature, and it's just going to get better. It's going to change, and that's a big thing too, John. We talk about, right? There'll be folks that'll, you know, maybe buy a beer like this and have a beer every, you know, maybe save it 1 year and buy a new batch if you can of the same beer and then taste how it's matured.
Yeah, I guess given that they change the style each year, this wouldn't necessarily be as fun for vertical. But then again,
actually was at a vertical of the Divine Reserve a little while back in Dallas. Brock Wagner, the owner-proprietor of St. Arnold, was there, and it was a vertical from 1 through 9. Actually, they didn't have 10 there, but got to taste all the different and how they'd aged. And actually, I would say that all of them, probably save one, aged really, really well. Like they did, the very first one they did was an English barley wine, so they kind of come full circle with the 10th one.
Oh, there you go.
And it aged very well. And actually, the double IPA they had aged pretty well. The one that aged really well, they had a wee heavy that aged fantastically. Fantastically, it was Divine Reserve number 4, I believe it was. So very,
cool.
very tasty.
So what are you tasting?
it's like a candy-like malt quality.
I like it. I'm not a big fan. I'll say full disclosure that I'm not a big fan of barley wines. I like this.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Well,
I do.
you're a malt man, and this has got all kinds of malt. But yeah, there's a wonderful sort of sugary quality to it, but it's also, I wouldn't say it's cloying. There's enough of the malt character, or I'm sorry, hop bitterness there to just to keep it right where it needs to be without getting syrupy. Some nice fruity character. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And what's nice about this, I'm not sure exactly what the process that they do it with, but you know, tasting Divine Reserve number 1, being, you know, over 5 years old, I was amazed at how much the hop character it actually preserved. Because a lot of times it's like you age something, is that typically the hops are going to go down a little bit. The hops were still there, and they were still kicking. I mean, it still had some life in it as far as the hops. It hadn't mellowed into that sort of fruity type character, but I mean, very nice. And yeah, there is a fruity character. There's definitely a little bit of booziness, but it's not, especially for 11%. It's not as much as you'd expect.
No, right.
Yeah.
I want to bring. You want to bring in Jason?
Yep.
Mike,
Yeah,
come on
definitely.
In. From Rahr and Sons, a brewer at Rahr and Sons. Come on in. And then Nate Lowe, who's running camera for us again too. You ought to bring a glass in, Nate, and tell us what you guys think.
We don't want to waste any delicious nectar.
And another thing that should be said is, more than likely, you're probably not going to be able to find this. The Divine Reserve series is definitely something to follow if you can find it. But since Saint Arnold is Texas only, if you're not in Texas, you would either probably need to travel there on the release date, or get it by trade, which is a very active internet community that you can find. So
yeah, I'm kind of blown away by the whole trade thing. Do you do that at all?
I do a little bit, but not too much. Mostly due to the fact that I'm kind of tight, and But I think that there's plenty of great beer around that you can find when I travel places. I like to try to find beers in other places, especially rare stuff. I can find it if I have someone who's in another city, such as right now, sort of another big sort of sought-after type beer in the Chicago area. I have a friend in Chicago with Goose Island is their Bourbon County Stout. They have a rare and the vanilla. They've got like the different varieties of that. And in a similar way to this, very sought after. People are looking for it. If they can find it, it's they're bragging about it on the internet, and then there are people just really lambasting them about buying too much because we didn't get enough and that kind of thing. So I've got him on the lookout for me for some of the vanilla and some of the rare and that kind of stuff. So try to use a network. A little bit of trading, a little bit of buying out of the state.
You get some of this same thing going on with your bourbon aged.
Well, we haven't because we've never really bottled it that much, but we have bottled just hand bottled some, and that's kind of been held on to and it's traded quite a bit. But.
Right on.
Yeah. So what do you think? Talk a little bit about what you're thinking right now.
It's delicious. It's hoppy, or a little hoppier for like an English barley wine, but if you aged it, probably definitely that would tone down and be absolutely delicious. But I've never really been able to get these to age very well because they don't really age at my house.
They get consumed before
they get consumed, and it doesn't get old. It just kind of.
We do drink beer before it's time.
Yeah,
on
right.
occasion.
Exactly.
It's hard sometimes.
And Nate, what do you think?
Calling your name in the closet.
Have you had a barley wine before? Come on, move in here. Move it right in here.
Yes, I've had a barley wine before, and I'm no professional like you guys, but this is really good.
Yeah. It's certainly I wouldn't say a unique style. It's not a style you see regularly, right? Or there's not a lot of barley wines you'd find on the shelf.
And not really a lot of English barley wines either. Not many people do the English styles. They stick to the American style, which is a lot more hoppy.
Well, you had made the point earlier talking about old ales. I mean, some of the English barley wines too. They may be aged in barrels, but you're generally not looking for barrel aged quality. But what you're kind of looking for is that micro oxidation quality.
Oxidation. It goes beyond the wet cardboard, more into the sherry kind of flavors.
Exactly. That's where you're going to develop those fruity characteristics.
A lot of English ales tend to have more oxidation, even so much as the pale ales from like the cask beer.
Exactly.
And oxidation's a really nice quality of some of these beers.
Yeah, it's kind of a fine line we walk with oxidation. I mean, we tend to think of oxidation just in general as being sort of a bad thing, but the wine industry would not be what it is without a pretty substantial amount of oxidation. If you go to a winery and watch how they handle the wine, totally unlike beer, they really vigorously aerate it. But some of these beers definitely benefit from some maturation where they're getting a little bit of this what we say micro aeration.
Yeah.
The folks at New Belgium were kind enough to give us sort of a presentation on their barrel age, or what do they call those things? Fooders, those giant oak tanks.
Those aren't barrels.
Those aren't barrels. Those are giant. They're basically like they're in hectoliters, but they're almost it's almost like 100 barrels,
something like that.
of sour beer, basically.
Yeah.
But that sour beer needs a little bit of aeration to occur over a period of time in order to develop the characteristics that it has.
Well, I'd be remiss without mentioning Chris Landis was the brewer of this, home brewer in the Big Batch Brew Bash that Saint Arnold holds, and they basically scaled up this recipe to make this beer, and so I'm sure he's quite proud of the buzz that his beer gathered.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's true. Yeah.
Very good.
There's all kinds of great puns we could throw in here, but I'll spare you. But yeah. Anyway, cheers to you, Chris Landis, because it's a very tasty beer, and
nicely done.
All of you who got your hands on some Divine Reserve 10,
Congratulations.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. I will say one minor criticism of that, and I've mentioned this before, is that my biggest problem with a beer series like this is that you find one you really love and then you can't get it anymore. And I did that with like Monk's Revenge and with Terrapin, which was like one of my favorite beers. And it's a one-off, one-time only brew. But some of them, people like almost revolted. Oh, I got to have more of this, and then they finally release it and it's cool. I guess it promotes. I got to buy several of these and just keep them. But if you love a beer, it's like, well, I can't get it anymore.
Well, and in that respect,
supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
The Divine Reserve 9, which is an Imperial Pumpkin Stout, Saint Arnold will actually be releasing as a season now.
Oh, right. Okay, good.
So to key onto your point, they
marketing you guys
demand or whatever, which by the way is a delicious beer and is. I mean, it is. When they say pumpkin, it is pumpkin, and it is stout, and it is bold. So it should be coming out as a seasonal.
I missed that one. I'm sure it was really good.
I ruined it for you. I know. Forever. We did like 10 pumpkin beers in a row, and it was like
spicy.
I like them. I do like them, but not in quantity.
Yeah, they're definitely a Thanksgiving sipping kind of beer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks everybody for being a part of this. Thanks for having us.
Oh, no problem.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Rahr and Sons here in Fort
it.
Worth, everybody. So, cheers, gentlemen. Paul at BeerAmerica.tv.
Think at BeerAmerica.tv.
Check us out on TexasBrews.org.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers, fellas.